You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, this is Jeff Belanger, author, researcher for Ghost Adventures, host of New England Legends, and of course, beer drinker. And you're listening to PSH Radio with Sam and Carl on the Parasearch Network. They're broadcasting to you from Old England. You can tell by the accents.
Good evening, guys. It is obviously PSH Radio here with your weekly Thursday show. And finally, because he's not stuck in traffic, I am obviously joined by Carl this evening.
I know. I made a big point of actually trying to avoid the traffic this evening, but I'm fine. I'm fed. I'm watered. Showered and everything. So I'm ready to rock and roll on tonight's show.
Great stuff, and obviously we have an interesting guest this evening, don't we, Carl?
We do indeed. And probably one of the best named guests we've had on the show in a long time.
Have to say his full name now.
Yeah, we've advertised it. You got it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this evening's guest is Coyote Chris Sutton.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, UK. Usually Christopher, Chris is fine, or you can just call me Coyote or Chris or whatever. But thank you much for pronouncing the whole thing.
It's fine.
Well, we have to say we get quite a lot of guests on our Thursday night show, but that has to be one of the best. And I'm going to ask it straight off the bat: where does the coyote bit come from?
The coyote bit comes from a couple of different things. Now, coyote is obviously an animal that lives here in the United States. I'm not sure if there's any in England or not, but they do get around. The coyote, in the medicine sense or in spiritual sense, is a trickster or somebody who gets under, not necessarily people's skins, but gets into their game and lets them know that, hey, I see you, and try to get the person to come out with their true selves. But I have to admit this is true. When I end up places, things go haywire, and that's kind of coyote medicine as well. And even if I don't intend it to happen, everything go to shit in a handbag, and it happens anyway. So people would call me that, hey, coyote, what you're causing trouble for, and I'm not just standing there doing nothing, but I get blamed for it anyway. But I've also had a couple of very close personal encounters with the animal itself. And so it just kind of stuck. And so I said, oh, what the hell? I'll just go ahead and hang it on with the rest of my name. And that's why it's sort of a it sounds kind of good, though, a media sense. Coyote Chris Sutton, and people says, you did that because it sounds good. Well, it didn't hurt. I'm not going to lie about that. But it does. It also encapsulates kind of who I am and what I do. And so it sort of serves, many, many purposes. But that's basically where it came from. It's just something I've kind of had to say yes to. It's like, yeah, okay, that's who I am. And people have called me this long enough. And so what the hell? And I also tell people, too, it's kind of a warning. If you're going to come out and hang with me, you're going to he pays your money and he takes your chances. And so I don't know what's going to happen either. And so, it's just kind of it's a whirlwind sometimes. So you just don't know what's going to happen. So, and that's sort of fun if you stop and think about it, because I just show up. I don't know what the hell is going to happen. So whether I'm doing, whether I'm doing shamanic work or paranormal work or whatnot, I bring my backpack full of stuff and I go and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So firstly, could you talk about your shamanic side of your persona or whatever you call it?
Sure. Yeah, persona, myself. This is where, because like I said, I do all sorts of different things. I do paranormal and healing work and all that sort of stuff. But it started with the shamanism. And I guess you have to go back to where I first got that jolt, and I always say, spirit was calling me or whatever. I'm not sure. People say it in different ways. So my wife, I always blame my wife on this. This is all her fault. I was a normal person before any of this happened, and of course I embraced it, so that's not her fault after that. But my wife had been a powwow dancer when she was in Girl Scouts over here, and we were living in a town that was very, very close. We had the Powwow Nationals here in the States, and so she goes, "Oh, I want to go to the powwow." And I said, "Oh," and I did not grow up religious at all. I grew up Unitarian, and that's basically secular humanism, believe in the good acts of people, but we never talked about God or Jesus or anything like that. We were just very, very philosophical types of folks, and so that's kind of how I was raised, very scientific, very philosophical. And so my wife takes me to this powwow, and I don't know if you've seen them over there. Have you seen pictures? I know that there has been some powwows over in England. I've seen stuff like a lady named Joe Crow.
There's been a few little. I think we call them. Particularly when it comes to like the Scouts, and what we call the Cubs or the Guides or whatever. They call them. It begins with an S. I think charabangs or something like that. They call it. Where they get all the different people from all the different packs and groups, and they like emerge, and they like have a tent, and they have all that sort of stuff. And it's like as they say, it's just a massive big get together, and they do shows, they do like demonstrations, and usually a bonfire, and you like all that sort of stuff.
Okay. Now a powwow over here is like. You got all these people from different tribes, different nations, all in their regalia, which you don't call them costumes, it's regalia. And this is their traditional dress. And they come out and dance in those. And it was just, it was really amazing. I mean, I knew a lot about Native American history and the things that happened to them. I knew, socio-political parts of it, but I didn't know anything about the spirituality of the whole thing. And so we go there, and my daughter was 1 at the time, so I'm pushing her in the stroller, and my wife's watching them. We're watching everything there. They have the main dance area, but then off the side, and then this is in a county fair, and over here county fairs, they have little barns and things where they judge cows and pigs and things like that for prizes. And so I heard in this one barn this real strong drumming and chanting. So I got attracted to that. So I walk over there, and I walk in, and the best way I can describe it, after a few seconds, that something happened to me where I realized that I had 1 foot in this world and 1 foot in the world. I guess I was no better word in the world of spirit, the spiritual world. And it scared the shit out of me. Because I had no frame of reference for anything like this. I had nothing about religious rapture. The Buddhists would probably call it satori. A sudden flash of insight. And so I wandered out of there. Luckily, I remembered to push my daughter out with me. Otherwise, I'd probably left her there because I was pretty amazed and awed at the time. But I wheeled out of there with her, and I found this guy. And I have to figure this out. So I go and I have to find a book, because that's how I deal with stuff. Is when I don't understand something, I have to grab a book and read about first before I go ask people questions. So I pull this book about a Lakota Sioux shaman named Black Elk, and the name of the book was Black Elk Speaks. So I read that, and it's like I thought to myself, and they pray with the pipe, and so I thought I just would love to be able to participate and to learn about this. I don't know what the hell it is, but I want to learn what it is. So all of a sudden, the universe starts opening doors, and I see an ad in a magazine come to our pipe circle at the local New Age shop up in Chicago. I lived close to Chicago at that time, and I went there and I met my first teacher, and it just took off after that. And I spent 6 years learning the Lakota methods of medicine work. And then the last 20, I've been what they call the Sassiwas medicine, which is northwest coast of the United States, and they'll obviously be up in the Canada area, up in the Vancouver area up in there, and all the medicine tradition that comes from that area. And that's what I've been into that. So, but that was a spark that ignited the whole thing.
So because obviously over in the UK we don't have these amazing things that you're talking about. Could you just give us a quick insight when you say medicine work, when you say in the ways of various different ways of doing medicine work? Can you just give us for our listeners in the UK a little bit of an insight in what that actually entails?
Sure, it can entail a lot of different things. It depends what. And I know probably people over there. I mean, shaman people practice shamanism are very similar to people that practice witchcraft.
Yeah.
In that, I think the nomenclature is different and some of the practices are different. But basically, you start off. Everybody has a gift from spirit. Everybody, and our job is to figure out what that gift is. And then for now, once we figure out what it is, people think, well, I'm going to start running out and start healing and doing this to other people. No. You got to heal yourself first. You start with yourself. You take care of your own house. The reason for this is, obviously, is that if you don't have your own act together and you're going out and trying to help other people, it doesn't, it's not pure. It doesn't work because you got your own issues that cloud that. And I've worked with people. I've worked in social services for 30 years in my day job. And I've seen that. I've seen people wanting to come out and rescue people, and because of their own issues, and they end up tripping all over themselves because they are unable to because of the issues that they already have. And so, what happens is that you are drawn to certain parts. Now, medicine means it's your gift. I'm going to do my medicine, or the medicine could be a tradition. And there's a Siwas tradition. The medicine work would be to help other people in any way you can. If you can heal, if you work on healing people through using sage and energy work and things like that, you do that. If you are a seer or a psychic, you do that. Maybe you're a good listener. Whatever your medicine is, that's what you do. It's use that gift that was given to you to help other people with, and that's the key right there. Is it's not for your own self-aggrandization. It's for you to help other people.
Okay.
People over here get in all kinds of trouble for say I'm a medicine person and they're charging people $200 to go to a sweat lodge, which is a bunch of crap. They're supposed to be for free. It's not what it's for. So with myself. Now, I first started with the medicine work. I had my teachers, and so first I started doing what you call more psychic work, and I still do that. I have tarot cards, and which is not traditionally Native American, but it works. I'm pretty eclectic, so if something works, I tend to use it.
Yeah.
And so but that's how that's the tool I use when I'm doing psychic work. Although I do get something, I am somewhat of a medium, but I'm kind of a medium rare, and I don't do. It comes and goes. It's not always. When people want it to work. It usually works when people don't want it to. And so, but basically I use a tool like that to, I've even cast runes a few times too as well. So I've done that. Then, I start working on healing work. And there's different ways. Every tradition has different ways, whether it's the pagan or the witch way of doing things, or it's the Lakota way or the Cherokee way, whichever. Everybody has different ways, different tools to do. But basically what you're doing is you're taking energy from spirit that spirit gives you, that you open yourself up to. Because it's not us doing the work, it's spirit doing the work. We're just, conduits. And so bring that out. And, I when I do healing work, I tend to use sage and the feather and crystals and things like that. I will do that. Now, if in a pinch, do I have to have it? No. No, if you maintain your focus. Other things that help you keep your focus. And also the person you're helping sees that as well. And it helps them to realize what you're doing. And so the more open a person is during healing work or psychic work, the better results are going to be. If a person just is just not going to be, open to it, they're not going to be open to it. And they're not going to get much out of the whole thing. And so, but everybody, people have different medicine. People do different things. So, like, again, the medicine is kind of your gift. In some traditions, you practice it a certain way. We do in the tradition I practice now. The ceremonies basically come together, and we sing and do tell stories and offer prayers for people and healing for people. Sometimes we have healing circles where we'll dance around a person and we'll doctor them. Use the sage or the cedar smoke and candle lights a lot of spirit and And so it can go on that. And so basically whatever the community needs can come out of that ceremony. Now, some traditions use very specific ceremonies. For the Lakota have the 7 sacred ceremonies, which include, the Hambalachea, which is crying for a vision quest, the Iwipi, which is the sweat lodge. They have pipe ceremonies, the sun dance, all sorts. You do different specific things for specific needs and whatnot. So a lot of it just depends on the tradition that you're practicing, how medicine can be described. But to me, it's basically the gifts that you've been given and how you use them.
Yeah, because
So with your healing, do you have a feeling if somebody needs healing, or do they come to you and then?
It can go both ways, Sam. A lot of times I will tell people, I can say, I'm kind of feeling this and this. And I'll give them options. It's sort of a dicey, it's difficult to come and tell somebody, you really need to be healed. So you got to be very, circumspect about how you talk to people about it. So, usually you're talking to them, you just strike up some conversation, and a lot of times they'll just blurt out, hey, can you help me with this? But sometimes you say, I'm feeling that it might be good for you to, balance your energy out. Now, I might feel something that's very serious. I might feel them in my heart, and that's where these feelings come to me, that there's something really wrong. I may not know what until I do, some of a diagnostic where I kind of wave my hands around different parts. I don't touch people, but around different parts of the body, you can kind of feel where something is out of whack.
Yeah. So it's like the energy in the body that you're basically picking up on,
right?
In similar sort of ways as people work in the Reiki method, where you don't physically touch it and you just manipulate energy. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yeah, basically that's how I work as well. I rarely put hands on people. If I really feel the need to, I will, but I always ask. I never just glom onto people. There's nothing more scary than somebody. I was at a circle one time, and somebody had some trainees, and they said go out and check out the people, and some young girl put her hand around top of my head, which is crown chakra, but it's also where the sky energy comes through, and puts it right on top without asking my permission or anything. And I said, whoa, please don't touch me unless you ask. And it's like, so you got to be very, you have to have good manners, and you have to be very careful with, when you're talking to people, when you're doctoring people. But other times they will come to you and say, hey, I need your help. And then you set up a healing time for them, and then you go from there.
So obviously after you've healed him, do you have to kind of heal yourself? Because do you kind of pick up what they need to be healed on, or?
Yeah, sometimes you do. I mean, if that can happen no matter how careful you are. I mean, you should always prepare, and you should always remember, I always have to remember I'm not using my energy, I'm using the energy of spirit, let it come through me. But in our tradition, we have a thing called, we go to the water. And when we're done doing healing work, we'll go to the bathroom, to a sink somewhere, get some water and splash it, or get some of our hands and splash it across our face and, kind of past our hair and whatnot. And that breaks that connection. And you consciously, when you are healing, if you find negative energy, pull it out, you throw it up to the sky, you throw it to spirit and let spirit take care of it. But then you finish up by, like I said, going to the water. And water breaks that energy connection. Same way in magic. Water is something that breaks that. And so that's what we do that too. But yeah, that's very true. And sometimes if it's been a real rough day, then you would smudge yourself or have somebody else do it, and with a feather and knock that junk off you.
So there's very similarities of what you're describing as stuff that happens in the UK when it comes to certain practices, which I know a lot of our people, a lot of our listeners will understand where you're coming from, and the methods that you're using, and the way you dispel the energy after you've used it, etc., etc. So that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
You also, do you still use your shamanism when you investigate as well?
Yes. Actually, I always have. I was never really a traditional, I guess, if there is such a thing as a traditional investigator. I didn't get into ghost hunting until, it was about 1998, I guess, the first time. And then that was because a friend of mine's son worked at a radio station at a university here near our house, and wanted to do a all-night ghost hunt on Halloween night. And so I thought about it, and I said, I'd worked with spirits before. You do that with shamanism. You work with spirits, your spirit guides, other people's spirit guides, and the spirits in nature and things like that. So how different can it be? A ghost and a spirit. Okay, so we did it. And I kind of just just kind of felt my way through, and it worked out pretty well. So after that, every once in a while, I would get called to do and I kind of got more into this thing of doing house cleansings, or people cleansing, trying to get, balance the energies in the house or get a spirit to move on, so it wouldn't bother the people there. Negotiate something, because sometimes the people are a bigger problem than the spirit is, and they're being assholes. So you have to watch that. I have to be honest, as far as going to people's houses, I have more problems with drugs and alcohol than I do with evil spirits, to be honest. Ones I've come across. So there have been some that have been kind of difficult for the people and were very legitimate. It wasn't until probably in the mid-2000s that I started getting more into the investigation part. And I never did much scientific work. I like working with people who are scientific, who have the gadgets. I got a couple of gadgets that I have when I do events and things like that for other people to use. Sometimes I use it myself. I have this wonderful little thing on my phone called I'm doing a commercial and I shouldn't, but called a necrophonic. And it's a nice little tool. For $12, I know I have people that have geoports, cost them hundreds of dollars. I'm getting about the same kind of stuff out of my little $12 app. So, although I think the geoports get a little bit deeper, but shoot, for what I do, it works just fine. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I tend to meander. So if you need to reel me back in, please do.
No.
So anyway, I started getting, more people asking more to come to a regular, type of investigations and things like that. So I like to work with those guys, because then I like to go out and just sort of feel and reach out, and I can try to, I'll come to a place and I'll walk around the outside and just start, I don't know how to explain it. Then I guess my energy goes into there, and I can get I get feelings that something's here. I guess an example would be that there's a building here in Alton, Illinois, where I live, and it's I had not investigated before. I had heard it was haunted. I was just not investigated before. But there's a place that was a Young Women's Christian Association building for kids to go to after school and stuff like that. And when I got there, I felt. I get there and I'm walking outside. And I feel this young woman inside just dashing around looking for the kids. That's what's coming across. So we finally got in there and got to the very place I was at, and got the meters and stuff out. Meters start going off when she would come by. So that's validated. They kind of figure out that there was a girl ghost there that was her thing. She was stuck there. What do you call it, repeaters or whatever? I forget what you call them. And just doing the same thing, just keeps looking for the kids, all other children. She watched the children back at some point when the place was open for doing that sort of thing. And so, but yeah, just kind of help people with the instruments find the places and do some. I do some medium work. I'm able to intuit thoughts and feelings, mostly feelings, but some thoughts. And like walking, I walked over a grave one time, or more than once, and you feel like something was in there. And it was a place, it was a poor farm. And we were investigating the outside, and I walked over a grave. And what happened was that this is what they call a potter's field, or a pauper's graveyard, because these people that lived there were indigents. Oh, they lived there to have a place to sleep. They would do farm work, sleep and eat, and that was all they did. Well, of course, there was not much medical care or anything like that. So they figured this guy was dead, so they threw him out and dug a hole and threw him in there, but he wasn't dead yet. So his spirit just keeps going, no, 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 no. And you can feel this terror coming from the spot in the ground. And it's So yeah, I mean that's how I use, that's the kind of the shamanic thing, we're using the energy to find these things, and sometimes it's not too damn pleasant, to be honest. But that and suicide spots and things like that, they're not very pleasant to go to. But I guess and then I got more into it, and was it 2013? 2009, I was on a show called Ghost Lab for about 25-30 seconds. And then in 2013, I was on Dead Files. And I was on there. They did a thing we used to call it Dead Files Revisited, and where they go back and see if they did what Amy had asked them to do, Amy Allen. And so they called me to do a cleansing of this place and to work with the spirits who are bothering this family. And so after that, I got more into the doing more paranormal type of work and events and things like that.
Well, that particular episode is where I first was aware of yourself.
Really?
That was that. If I'm remembering rightly, that's the episode that you were. Is it something like Evil Underground or something?
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm flattered.
I remember watching that episode, and that's when Sam said, "Oh, we put this guest on." I'm pretty sure I've known the name before. Obviously, the industry is quite small compared, in the world, and everybody's on social media. So I obviously had been. Well, there was something at the back of my head was like I'd seen that, and because when Dead Files Revisited, they played it in the UK. Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of the first episodes I saw was like this episode with yourself in it.
Wow. I have enough trouble seeing people in America seeing it. I'm very, very flattered you saw that and remember it. So, but yeah, I mean, but this year I was on Ghost Adventures this year. And so that's my big claim to fame now. So, and it's, it's funny. I mean, because life's funny that way. Now, do I profess to be some magical, great person? No. I work hard at what I do, and I try to help people, and that's basically what I do. And these little cool things will happen.
Exactly. And if you're in the industry long enough, and you're working hard, and you're true to yourself, these little things that spring up during your career or the path that you're walking. They're just little bubbles that are just amazing, brilliant. But I completely agree with you on that front. Where these little bubbles just appear and you go, wow, great, that's amazing, right?
Yeah,
you just keep on your path. You're treading, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's every once in a while, God throws you a scrap, and it's all good. But and that's how I see it. That's fine. But does that mean that I've made it? Hell no. I mean, I just keep on going the way I'm going, and don't worry about it. But it's fun. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was a fun thing, and all that stuff's just a lot of fun to do, and it's fun to see yourself on television. I mean, I'm not again.
Oh no, it's not.
I'm not going to be.
No, I personally don't enjoy.
Well, if you're being arrested for something, I guess I wouldn't probably.
Yeah. I haven't been on cops, so I'm all right. Or in the UK crime watch or anything like that. This is the thing that when you talk to people and they're talking about what they want to do in the industry, and when they first get into it, when they're newbies, as we call it, I want to be on Ghost Adventures, I want to be on this, I want to be on that, and I always say to them, that doesn't define what you do. That could be just 10 minutes of what you do.
That's right.
And live it, go for it, enjoy it while it happens, but don't forget what you really got into the field for.
Right.
And then just enjoy those little, as you say, scraps from the table. Because if you're in the industry long enough and you do good work, things happen. This world, I always think this world has a way of throwing things out to people if they know they've worked hard and they are true to themselves. The world gives back in some way, and I think TV shows, I think good luck and stuff like that is the world repaying what you've put into the world.
Yeah.
As
I agree. I mean, and it's, it doesn't, like with Dead Files, is like the producer told me, she goes, I had to find somebody, and I was looking through a list of, I live in the state of Illinois, and so shaman in Illinois, she came across you. I came across your name. I looked you up. It's okay, and so we chose you. And I said, well, don't. She goes, can you be here? I said, just tell me when you want me there. I'll be there. Don't worry. I can get off work for that. But yeah, you're right, Carl. I mean, it's you just got to do what you. To me, the most important thing is to have integrity, and to do what you do and do it for the right reason. I mean, if you're going to go and do any of this stuff to get on television, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, absolutely, and I know several people, and I know a lot of people that have done TV, etc. And I've been lucky enough that I've done a little bit of TV as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you do, and I just look at it. It's a bonus. It's good fun. It's exciting to be that side of the camera before you see it on TV. Was fascinating for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of an equipment geek, so I was like fanning over the old equipment, even down to the most silly things like what cases they put their equipment in to get it through customs. That's how bad I was. I was like, I don't want to talk about the TV stuff or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
What cases do you and all that sort of stuff? So it's good to see, but it doesn't. It's not. As long as you're true to yourself, and as you say, integrity and what you go through, and I think that's the most important thing. And as you say, you go through your life like you've been in the industry a long time, and you've done great work. You've obviously with your the spiritualist side, and obviously you've progressed on to like you've appeared on TV, etc. But you've never lost your path.
Mm-mm. I hope not. No, I have not. No, that's more important than anything else.
So, we'll just quickly keep talking about obviously the TV part of it, because obviously in 2019, this year, you appeared on Ghost Adventures on the episode Curse of the River Bend, the Mineral Springs Hotel. Not seen the episode yet. I haven't seen any of it.
I have.
There's a surprise. There's a surprise. I've not seen any of this year's any of this year's episodes because I've been slightly busy. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about how it became and what if anybody's not seen it, what you were there to do?
So spoilers are okay, or should I not?
Spoilers are fine.
Yeah, you're all right. It's on there now. So
Sam's seen it, and by the time I watch it, I'll probably have forgotten the conversation we've just had.
Yeah. Well, I just thought of a second for like last year when we Paranormal Lockdown, with Nick and Katrina.
Yeah.
I remember you guys got to see it was on Quest Red.
Yeah.
It was on the States.
Yeah,
that's
our lovely MJ was the location manager on. She sorted out all the locations for that series. So yeah, we for the first time ever when it comes to paranormal TV, we got to see the program before the Americans did.
That's great. Good for you guys.
Which doesn't normally happen, particularly with Adventures and Ghost Hunters and all these. Yeah. You guys see it, and then we probably see it. Obviously now with modern technology and YouTube, we see it like the day after or a couple of hours after. But we actually got to see it first before you guys saw it.
Yeah. That was a sore spot over here. I will say that. Not because it was because people couldn't believe it. I said, there was issues there, but that's in the whole story. Anyway, the Curse of the River Bend. There are 2 episodes filmed of that. The first one, and now the River Bend is where I live. And we live right on the Mississippi River. And it kind of twists and turns right around where we live. And so it's called the Riverbend area. And so it's kind of odd. If you look in the map, and we're right across the river from St. Louis, if you ever get bored someday, you can see why they call it that. A little piece of land sticks out and the river goes around it. And so this area, especially where I live here in the Alton, Illinois area, the whole place considered to be haunted. And it damn near pretty is. There's lots of limestone and there's lots of water. And there was a Confederate prison from our Civil War, where lots of soldiers from the South were housed. It was a very bad place, and it was made out of limestone blocks. Well, limestone carries energy and will take in energy. So when this prison was torn down, it put the blocks all over town to for buildings and for retaining walls. So we have all these things going on that makes this place supposedly haunted. So there ergo the curse of the river bin. The first episode was at the McPike Mansion, which is another place I go to very frequently, and it was a pretty good episode. Now the Mineral Springs is a hotel that was in downtown Alton. You can see the river from it. And it's 5 stories. It used to be they were drilling a hole for water back in the late 1800s, and because they wanted water to make ice with. Ice was the new thing, and they hit mineral water. And so, of course, mineral water is basically garbage, but they bottled it, and so it was a magic elixir, and people wanted to come bathe in it. So they built this 5-story hotel up the hill. So it's all built into like a hill. And so it's a very haunted place. It's been so for many, many years. And Ghost Adventures wanted to, they wanted to do McPike Mansion, they wanted to do us. And so, and I do lots of work. I say us because I do lots of work at the Mineral Springs. The people who run it are friends of mine. And so, and we do lots of investigations there. So if anybody's ever in the St. Louis area in the States, check us out or come by and see us, and I'll take care of you. I'll show you around. But so I talked to the producers always talk to everybody that they want to get on the show, and so I talked to the producer and a couple of different producers actually, and so I was one of 5 people that they wanted to bring on. The 2 people who run the place. Myself, another shop person, and then a lady who had a pretty serious experience there. Now here's what's always fun. You go through all this stuff, and Carl, you know this, you've seen this. So and you spend so much time, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and so. And you sit there, but you never know for sure if you're going to be on or not. Once the finished product, you could spend hours there and do all this filming, and the next thing you know, you have. And this happened to a friend of mine. A friend of mine was filming with Ghost Adventures for this one episode, and he was so sure it was going to happen. I love this guy. I won't say his name because I like him so much. It just shows how bad luck is sometimes. So he has this big watch party in his hometown at this bar. And all his friends came to watch. They came to sit down and they watched the whole. And he didn't. He wasn't on it.
Yeah.
And he put it on.
I know what you're on about.
I did. Okay, Sam. We're not saying any names.
No.
Because he's a lovely person.
Yeah, he is.
But it's like everybody kind of shook their head. And, oh no, because you got to watch that shit. But anyway, we go through all this, and so it's my turn now. And people always ask me about Zach and Aaron and the guys, Jay and Billy. That was the second time I had met them. I'd met them once at a con and talked to them then, and then I spent more time with them obviously this time. They've been nothing but nice to me. I can never sing bad about any of those guys. They were pleasant, they were respectful. So Zach was nice. Now Zach and I did not interact a whole lot. For whatever reason. I mean, he knew who I was, called me Chris, and Aaron, you and Chris go down. Now there's the sub base. They call the sub basement. They also call it the slaughterhouse. Is a place. It's in the very bottom. Obviously, it's actually under the ground, and it's probably the most active place on average. So I got the honor of going down there. That's kind of my lair anyway. I always love going down there. I go down there and drum sometimes, and because the native spirits hang out down there, because that used to be their land in through there, and so they'll come out sometimes. But so we went down there. They didn't want to see those guys. They don't want you to do anything positive. They want everything. They want to keep everything as dark as they can. They legitimately, before Aaron and I went downstairs, and he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, he knows what I do. He knows I practice shamanism." And he goes, "Now listen, I don't care what happens to me. I don't care." I mean, he goes, "Man, I've done this 300 times." He goes, "I got all this dark stuff, but man, I don't care. Don't try to do a healing or anything like that, or any smudging or me like that." And I said, "No, I don't care what happens." So I said, "Even if you're on the ground and convulsing, you don't want me." He goes, "No." I said, "Okay, not a problem." So he was serious too. And I believe when he says, he's had lots of bad things happen to him. I believe it because you could see it on him. That this guy's have been through some shit. So anyway, we go downstairs, and Sam, you said you saw it, right? And so
yeah.
There are those rocks. I mean, you're down there, and these rocks are flying. Now there are times rocks are flying. That's happened to me more than once, but never. And I had a friend of mine was standing in the back. He was watching everything. So nobody picked up anything and threw it. I was down there about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, talking to him. And rocks were flying, about 5 or 6 rocks hit the wall in various places. That place just came alive. And I imagine it's because of all the stuff these guys carry around with them.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much admit as much. And so, it was a kind of disjointed interview because every time I went to say something, the rock went flying. And so, and we went chasing after the rocks and things like that. So it was, so we wrap it up. And so we had the big moment, is in January. We filmed that in July, it came out in January, first or second week in January. And we have a watch party now. We're smart about it, at least I'm smart about it. Say we had it from Mineral Springs because some of the people were saying, well, what are they going to, how are they going to make the Mineral Springs look like this? I said, hey, it's a 1-hour commercial. It's exactly what this is for this place and for McPike. And everybody said, okay, and if we're on, it's gravy. But they were, we got there, and so I'm like the last person out of everybody. I'm like, oh shit, I got edited. Well, that's okay, it's all good. But then I showed up, and but yeah, and the episode was pretty true to what I saw. Now you got the part where they're by them, it's just them. The first part, it's always with the other people they're interviewing, and then they're off by themselves. I mean, I saw them running out of the basement off after something. I'm like, what'd they run for? I hear that stuff all the time. I mean, my son and I were down there one time in the pitch black because there's no lights down there. And we were waiting for a group to come down. So we just had everything shut off till they got there. And we heard footsteps walking all around us, And it's like that. It's kind of not really scared because I've been down there so much, but, it's sort of interesting. We got, something walking or, 2 things walking around you at the same time. But, so yeah, I mean, but I can't complain about how they aired it, edited or anything like that. I'm always, because what scares you to death is that they're going to make it, especially if you're trying, like we're talking about trying to be true to your path and to your integrity, they're going to edit in a way it looks like you did something against that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it didn't happen. It was all, all above board. I mean, they had their own thing. They didn't make anybody else look bad. So
I must admit, the episode I was on, that was probably the truest from what I saw, and I was there literally for 2 days. Nothing that didn't get viewed on the air that I saw where they edited made anything that wasn't actually happening that when I was physically there.
Right.
I think they're pretty true. I know occasionally they lost their way a little bit in a few seasons where it was more about #it's a demon.
Right.
A few series of that where it went to the wayside, but I think they've sort of gone back to their roots really. Mm-hmm. The early seasons where like interviews, reconstructions, interesting reconstructions, and then the guys go out and do their thing. Mm-hmm. And I think to be truthfully honest, it's always an interesting subject to talk about, particularly on the radio. And very much so on social media because you have 3 or 4 different fan bases. You have the fan bases that are just not into the paranormal, but they just want to see Zach with his shirt off. You've got Aaron fans. You've got the paranormal fans. You've got the paranormal fans who are basically thinking they're selling out doing these type of shows, etc. Right. So it's pretty contentious when you talk about particularly it is paranormal show in the world. Mm-hmm. Sure. Any show that's been going for the amount of seasons they have must be doing something right.
Exactly. And do they hype? I mean, do they get over dramatic? Yeah, they do. But But I can't. Again, I can attest to what I've seen, and what I've seen is legit. I mean, it's from what I've viewed. They hype it up a little bit. Okay, that's okay because that appeals to fan base. They've been on longer, and somebody, I guess Dave Schrader. I don't know if you know Dave or not. He's okay from Darkness Radio. Yeah. I saw him say one time that but without these guys, you wouldn't be able to go to a lot of places we can go now to ghost hunt, to investigate, because it made it more mainstream and it made access easier for a lot of people and a lot more people to get into it and do things like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. These programs, obviously in the UK, we have a program that's been going a long time, which gets the same sort of social media responses as Ghost Adventures does in America. Mm-hmm. You either love it or you hate it. And people are never going to be in both camps. They're always going to be one or the other. But at the end of the day, when I first started 20-odd years ago, and I was like, and this program was on TV, this was my first outlet to it, and I was fascinated. And I will happily admit that program was one of the reasons I really got into this field all those years ago. It's not my path now. I'm on a different path, and my path's changed as the years have gone on, and equipment base, etc. But at the end of the day, these programs that appear on TV, these 42 minutes, 37 seconds, or whatever it is, that are done, these get people who are sitting there at home who have this passion that potentially could bring something amazing to the field. That's right. They've never had the outlet. They watch a program like that and they go, yes, that's what I want to do. And all of a sudden they're in the field and they come up with something, or their theory or the way they work is amazing. So never knock these programs. I never knock the program. Sometimes they get a little bit ridiculous, but at the end of the day, it's for TV, and sometimes that's the way it is. So, everybody has their own point of view, but there's not many people out in this field that have been in it for a while that haven't had an interest in a particular program at some point in their time.
Sure. Yeah, they all have, yeah.
Exactly.
Now, who was it? And there was one over in the, was it Most Haunted?
That would be the show.
Yes, okay. I remember we used to watch it when Derek was on it.
They did a couple of like 3 or 4 specials over in the States. Yeah. They went to, I think it was Penn State Penitentiary, I think it was.
Penhurst.
Penhurst, yeah. And they went to a few other I think they went to Alcatraz and stuff like that, but yeah. So, at the end of the day, everybody has a program that they...
Sure.
Well, as my good friend Sagers will say and put in his when he's talk about paranormal pop culture, everybody can remember their first paranormal show exactly like they can remember their first love.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's it, because you remember what triggered your spark, what triggered it, and I remember it, and I was into that sort of stuff. I was into the scary movies, etc. But I remember watching this program all those years ago. So I don't knock them, and get more of them on TV. Get more of these sort of shows on TV, because it gets people into the field that is sitting at home that doesn't have that outlet. They don't know where they want to go. And as more people into the field is beneficial for everyone.
Well, I'll tell you what, here in the States, there are more and more shows are coming. For some reason this year, there are certain shows that are on now. They're going to be more, they're churning out more. I know more people under contract, and most of them never. I was under contract for a few months, but the production company I was with decided they didn't want to go forward with the paranormal stuff, which I was okay with that, because again, my fear is I'm always scared that I'm going to be asked to do something I don't want to do. I'm doing a guest thing, I don't have to worry about it so much. So I do work with VidiSpace, and I can control my content on that.
That's Nick and Elizabeth, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is. And Elizabeth and I go way back. Actually, Elizabeth and I got to know each other right before Ghost of Shepherdstown came out, and so we have done events together. I've actually called her to come do an event with me on 2 occasions, and just a wonderful person. They're both wonderful people. So basically, I can't work for them. Yeah.
But a very intelligent lady when it comes to equipment as well.
Oh, definitely she is. Oh yeah, so some of the stuff she has created herself.
Yeah. I think not a lot of people know that there's a lot of some of the equipment you see on other shows have come from Elizabeth. So
definitely, yeah, she is. She's beautiful, and but don't mistake her for being, stupid, because that's one lady who is not in many different ways. She's shrewd business wise, and she and Nick both, and but they've given outlet to a lot of people who had never had an outlet before.
Vivi Space is as not taken off majorly in the UK,
right?
But there's a few people that I know that are on Vivi Space. You've got the guys that publish Haunted Magazine. They're over there. There's a few other people I know, and it's a great outlet. It's sort of like moving away from, say, the YouTube, posting it on YouTube and posting it this, that, and the other, or paying to get on TV yourself on those networks that just basically you just pay the money to get on the show or get your show on there. So I think any avenue that you can have to get evidence, share your stuff, share what you're doing, and and be able to have discussions with people, I think is a bonus in this field.
Definitely, I agree. And I've got 2 of mine are on there now, and I've got some other stuff that are waiting to get checked out and edited and things like that. But there was one I did called my name of my show is On Sacred Ground. And there was one that was for our school. We actually made contact with the tree spirit. I mean, I'm into spiritual stuff, what some people would call the fae or the elementals and the native spirits, which I do a lot of my investigating outside. That's where all the sacred grounds are about, being outside. And we drum and sing to the people and talk to them about how we want to hear their stories. And it's interesting what comes out of that through the geoports and where they say tell our story or or they start calling you by name and that sort of thing, and it's really kind of a neat way to investigate.
Yeah, I've got a very good friend who's she teaches over in the States. Her and her husband, Alison, who teaches at Native American schools, and she's I think this weekend she just got flown out to the second year of the Hawaiian Paragon.
Oh wow. That'd be neat.
And that's a similar thing. It's similar, like spiritual based, society, isn't it? From the Native Americans to the Native Hawaiians as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hear about that. But yeah, I think I'm when it comes, I could talk to people about like the Native Americans and where they basically are like keeping the traditions alive.
Yes,
which I think is the biggest key that you've got to do. You've got to, because you never want these things to die out. It's a bit like being over in the UK when people are doing Wiccan and they're doing all that sort of stuff. They're keeping these traditions live. They're keeping them current.
Yes,
and they're also using them in the stuff that I love, and that's like paranormal investigations as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. And so yeah.
They do. They go hand in hand. I mean, we're talking, we have the spirits of the people who came in England. I mean, you guys haven't lived there. I mean, there's been most people are Germanic. I mean, it came through that way and through Western Europe. I know all these things now because I got a big old thing done on my ancestry, chromosomes and whatnot. So obviously the name of Sutton, that's pretty British. So but I mean, you've got all these spirits of the land, and like not just the spirits of the Celts or or the Wiccans and the Druids, not Wiccans but the Druids. And then the same here with the spirits of the native people. Then you had who get conquered, but then you've got this overlay of these places with the colonialists who built their places on top of. So there's many of their sacred places. There's a big to do in Hawaii now about them building a telescope in Mauna Loa, which is sacred ground to the Hawaiians, the native Hawaiians, and so. But you've got all these things that are mixed together, and just to be able to talk to the spirits who were there, but first. before the other people is just so incredible and so gratifying to do.
It's keeping it, like I said, and I know you agree with me. It's keeping those traditions alive, keeping them forward, making sure as many people out there know about them, and also teaching the new people about them that potentially could get into it and then progress it and keep it alive, go even further for more generations to come, because you never want that sort of stuff to fade away. No,
never, because these people knew how to take care of the land, and you can't lose anything. You can't lose that mindset that these aren't things. These are part of the earth. This is the earth. This is what keeps us alive, and all these things have spirits. Or, damn it, if you don't think they have spirits, then at least appreciate for what they are. That the trees are our lungs, and the earth, the ground is what brings us food, and at least have that kind of sensibility. And not to, where you have islands of freaking trash in the ocean, they're miles long. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you think like a person who was here before, who was trying to take care of things, it helps by keeping those thoughts alive. It makes people stop and think, hopefully, that, we can't, tear up where we live, or we're not going to have a place to live.
No, exactly. And I agree with you 100%. Sam, over to you, my love.
So, obviously, Chris, a quickie, because obviously we're coming a few minutes to the end of the show. Do you have anything coming up which you want to say?
Oh my goodness! Let me get my little calendar out here. So I'm getting up in years, and my memory is not. Plus, I've been after 2 hip surgeries in the last hip replacements in the last 6 months, and all the various drugs that go with that. My memory is not good. Okay, I will be. So it's okay to take all July off because I'm convalescing. On the August the 10th, I will be at the 4-hour school that's in Maxwell, Iowa, which is not too far from Des Moines, at the Parafamily event. That's where we're doing a con there and investigation to help out some friends of ours who live there. And you can go, you can get any of these things if you go to www.coyotechris.com. It's in my calendar. August 17th, I'll be at the Spook Show in DeKalb, Illinois, which is not too far from Chicago. We'll be at the Red Roof Inn there, and there'll be a mission during the day, and I think we're doing investigation at night. September, I'll be at SilCon the 6th and 7th. That's in Mattoon, Illinois. In Lexington, Kentucky. It's a big event. Huge. I'll be there for that, and they've got guys from Ghost Hunters. I think Tango and Dave are going to be not Tango. Dave and Steve Gonsalves, the Ghost Brothers, Wraith Chasers, Tennessee Wraith Chasers will be there, and so that's the 13th through the 15th. The 28th, I will be at Crown Point, Indiana. We're going to be hunting the whole town, apparently, at least in areas of that town. That's, again, not too far between Chicago and Indianapolis. Again, go to my Facebook, my website, and you can get how to get tickets and things like that from there. I'll be there with Doogie from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers, Rick Wade, Christopher St. Booth and his wife Rachel. Lots of good folks there. And do you know Christopher?
I've spoken to him briefly, but I've not actually spent much time. Obviously, I know Rick a little bit as well. So
yeah, okay. I see Christopher all the time, him and his lovely wife. I'll be at the Ash Bash, Ashmore Estates, on October 12th.
That's a place I want to go to, Ashmore.
Definitely, you'll love it. You would love it. I'll be at the McPike Campout in Alton, Illinois, on October the 19th. Me and my friend Sandy Little Lizard. And usually at the end of October, I'll be at the Middle Springs the rest of the time there. We
will post in the chat room and also on our social media links, all the various different links to get hold of yourself.
Appreciate it.
And I'll just pass you back.
So obviously, before we all say goodbye, just a quick plug, usual plug. If anybody misses any shows, obviously you can go back on the Spreaker app. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook under Parasearch Radio. It's a good night from Carl.
Good night.
It's a good night from Chris.
Good night, everybody.
And it's a good night from me.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.